Hello and welcome to the tennis podcast, our second tennis podcast of the week, a 4-podcast week coming your way. We just cannot get enough podcasting. We're here to talk Billie Jean King Cup, which has concluded its quarter-final stage and is moving on to the semi-final stage. Matt is here and he is sunburnt. Hello, sunburnt Matt.
Hello. Yes, I'm sunburnt in a very small portion of my face after playing golf on Tuesday with the British tennis journalists and forgetting that I have new hair. I very diligently applied sun cream to my face, but forgot my new hairline. I don't usually have to put the sun cream up that high, and I wasn't wearing a hat. And now I've been confronted with various Zoom calls this week with our lights up for our podcast studios, where it's become very obvious that I was an idiot and I have some comical sunburn on the top of my head.
It's very tennis player coded to only have sunburn in like a very specific portion of your face that your sort of head accoutrement don't cover. It's very Stefanos Tsitsipas of you. Whether or not you think that's a good thing is up to you. David, how are you doing?
He's a Saudi king.
Yeah. No one's ever been more thrilled to be a Saudi king than Stefanos Tsitsipas.
Holgeruna, maybe.
David,
but anyway,
how are you doing?
I am neither a Saudi king nor a partially sunburned person, mainly because I haven't been in the sun. So, yes, but I did enjoy hearing about Matt's exploits on the golf course, which sounded like they went pretty well in my absence. So I've got some catching up to do.
Yes, Matt, tell us about the golf.
I think it was potentially the best golf I've ever played. I did need David's help in the bunkers. David has famously never failed to get out of a bunker in one go, and I turned a potential par into a quadruple bogey, and that rather ruined my scorecard, which was otherwise excellent. And it was...
What a team you would have been.
I know. It was those windy conditions which I think catch you out with sunburn as well. I'm trying to justify myself. Like it was sunny, but it wasn't hot because it was really windy, and I needed 3 layers on, and I just didn't think that I was getting sunburnt, but apparently I was. But I played well, so maybe it's worth it.
I can believe that. I was on the driving range with Matt on Sunday, and it was a really unfortunate meeting of one person playing the worst golf that is, well, both that they have ever played and that potentially anybody in the history of golf has ever played, and the other person just couldn't miss. Matt was just cracking away, trying to not glory too much in how well he was playing, while I was just air shotting all over the place. Then the rain started coming and Billie Jean started whining. It was a whole scene. Anyway, very well played, Matt. Thank you for representing us so well at the British Tennis Journalists Association annual Golf Day. David will be back next year. It's a goal of mine to feel like I'm able to not embarrass myself at such events at some point in the future. So we'll see how we go. Turning our attention to Shenzhen and the Billie Jean King Cup finals. Our semi-final lineup is set with all 4 quarterfinals having been played. So it will be 2 semi-finals. The first of them tomorrow, Friday, Italy against Ukraine. And the second of them, Great Britain against the USA. Those 2 ties, Great Britain's win and the USA's win, having been played today. Great Britain having wrapped up victory just over an hour ago. We'll talk about that in due course. Let's start at the beginning, shall we? With the Italy-China tie that kicked off the whole week in Shenzhen. What have been our initial impressions, kind of aside from this tie and the drama of it that we will soon get into, but what have our general impressions been of these finals in its new venue and its new incarnation in Shenzhen with this 8-team format, David?
Well, I think if you were turning on day one, your impressions would be pretty much wholly positive, because I think the staging of it looks very impressive on TV anyway. They've got a good arena there. It just feels like it's been in that arena for years. You know, you can often see some pretty kind of worrying moments at the start of a new staging of a new venue where things look as though they need some ironing out, and this wasn't that. But the main thing was that there was a great atmosphere, and too often, certainly the season-ending event that they had in Shenzhen, and sometimes the other events that we've seen in Wuhan and Beijing, sometimes lack atmosphere, crowds, and there was a great crowd on day one. Now, obviously, that was featuring the host nation, and that is a difference maker. I mean, I think overall there were decent numbers watching Kazakhstan against the US today, and that was a good atmosphere. And it hasn't been sort of terrible in all of them, but it's been quiet in some of the others, through the TV at least, on some of the others. But on day one, when you got the host nation playing, it was fantastic. And look, China gave them a lot to shout about as well. I mean, that was a cracking tie, and really they should have at least extended it into the doubles, and they probably should have won the whole thing, because they were ahead in both matches. And I mean, huge credit to Italy for finding a way to win those two singles from behind, but I'd be pretty gutted if I was the Chinese players to have got that close. I wouldn't have expected them to get that close in the absence of Zheng Qinwen, and yet they did, and they still didn't win. Must hurt.
Yeah, we're looking at a tie here that was won 2-0 by the defending champions and the team that were heavy favourites to win this quarter-final, and yet that is so far from telling the story of the tie. Both matches were served for by the Chinese players that ended up losing the matches. Yuan Yui served for her match, the first match of the tie against Elisabetta Cocciaretto, twice. She was a set and 5-2 up, was Yuan Yui. She was 4-love up in the decider, ended up losing the last 5 games in the match. Was this a comeback, a choke, or both, Matt?
Can I hand that question over to David? Because I was on the golf course.
Oh, so you're here just to talk about your sunburn and your golf? Is that's your contribution's done now? Is it?
Well, and the other 3 ties which I've watched, but
Okay.
you've very specifically come to me on the one that I didn't watch.
I thought you might have done some catch up. I overestimated you, David.
Look, I've watched the highlights, but I don't feel well enough informed to make an accurate assessment on the level of choking.
Well, I really did watch I watched every ball of this, and I mean, look, it wasn't just duty either. This was really pulsating stuff. I was riveted by the action, and look, I'll be a bit smug about it. I've banged on about knockout tennis, and this is a perfect example of it. You could feel the nerves, you could feel the deadline, you could feel the desperation, and how tight Cocciaretto was early on. I mean, she just couldn't play properly, and Yuan Yui was just on it, and she hits a big ball. I mean, she really strikes the ball well, you know, and I don't know. I just think how tight Yuan Yui became when she was a set and 5-2 up. I mean, you could just feel it coming. You could feel this turnaround coming. And then honestly, when she got the first break back, Cocciaretto, I said, she's gonna win this. You know, this is over. And I actually I say I've watched every ball. I think I took one short break at the end of that second set, and I came back, and suddenly it's 4-0 for Yuan Yui, and I couldn't see that coming at all. That just didn't feel likely. I thought, oh, brilliant! You know, this is what for her. You know, what an amazing comeback, and this will likely extend the tie into the doubles, because Paolini was coming up, and she was obviously the favourite in her match. And then this comeback started again, and it was just the same thing. This tightening of Yuan Yui. And at the same time, it was also Cocciaretto just extending points, extending rallies, realising what was going on down the other end of the court, just not missing, getting better as it got tight and tense. So I think you have to say it was a choke in terms of the tightness that kind of happened out there. But I also think you have to give massive credit for the Italian not just getting down on herself, not giving in. It would have been so easy to just think, it's not happening. I'm not playing well, especially in the second set there. And then when you lose your way in the third as well, I think it really was both. Because it wasn't like the ball was just spraying everywhere. I mean, these were extended rallies, and you're watching it and you're thinking, I'm almost willing Yuan to win because she's hanging in as hard as she can in these rallies. And she just won't miss. Cocciaretto just will not miss. And eventually, Yuan missed. And it was pretty heartbreaking, actually, to see that. And I thought, brilliant contest. And then, the second one started to go a similar direction. It was a real surprise to me watching it.
Yeah, I think a lot of neutrals would have been rooting for Yuan for a lot of reasons, but generally for the sake of the tie, because everybody knew what was coming was Jasmine Paolini against Wang Xinyu, and Paolini the very heavy favourite in this match, and yet she was second best for so much of this contest, David. Wang Xinyu served for the match, and Paolini ended up coming through 4-6, 7-6, 6-4, like by her own admission, very far from her best at any stage in this match, but a real example of, I think someone from the Italian team put it in terms of, how just playing for the flag, giving them that extra 10%, but she needed it in this match.
Yeah, she just had to dig so deep because she was kind of getting outplayed, and she also wasn't playing well. It was a very similar match, really, in terms of feel. And she would win long points and then just sort of getting from 30-all to 40-30, things like that, and just celebrating with a really guttural roar. And I thought, wow, you can feel how much the players that are there, the teams that are being represented, how hard they're trying, how much this means to them. I mean, I think those that aren't there and the teams that didn't make it, it can feel a little bit difficult to relate to, I think, unless you're one of the teams there, or unless you really take the time to watch it. And if you do, my goodness, it's worth it. It just shows what team sport can do in tennis, and makes me sad, really, that it's not on an even bigger stage, and that there's not more people taking notice, and that they haven't worked out a calendar yet that properly allows for this and gets behind it the way, say, the US Open decided to get behind its own mixed doubles. This was fantastic sport. This tie was everything that I want in sport, and particularly team sport. And there was true heartbreak in that first tie, and there was jubilation from Team Italy, who've kept themselves afloat, really, when they were bang up against it.
Yeah, that's kind of been my big takeaway of watching these few days, is that, and look, for me, it's my first time watching the Billie Jean King Cup finals in its new form on TV rather than being there. So I'm aware that I'm having a bit of a different experience anyway. But my big takeaway has been that, yes, we can look at the crowds, and we can look at the location, and we can look at the calendar and all this kind of thing, and we can have, I think, valid criticisms of those aspects. But what always delivers is the matches. The players and the matches always provide drama, which sort of adds to the frustration that it isn't an even bigger event, as David said there. But the number of compelling matches that I've watched at the Billie Jean King Cup over the last few years has been so many, and I feel like we've had that again already this week. Okay, I think the four teams we probably expected to win all the ties have come through, but many of the matches have been more dramatic and more exciting than we might have thought. Players have played better than we might have thought, especially, as you said, Yuan and Wang Xinyu for China. Like, they're bringing it, and I feel like sort of frustrated that therefore the event isn't even bigger, and these players aren't getting the even bigger stage and attention that they deserve, but also kind of like, I don't know, strangely proud of the fact that like still they show up and they play these matches and they're really compelling viewing, like every time. And there is something about these matches that if there are tour level matches, I might not be hanging on every ball, but because they're BJK Cup and they're playing for their country and the stakes feel big, I am hanging on every ball. And even in not necessarily a full stadium, I know they were for these matches that we were just talking about, that drama and that tension has come through. And yeah, there's just gold there to mine, and the sport isn't doing it. And it's not the fault of the event. The event's trying, but factors in its way.
I want to talk a little bit more about Paolini, but I feel like we should be able to look ahead to the semi-final when we do that. So let's talk about the other quarter-final in this half of the draw. Ukraine beating Spain 2-0. Marta, Kostyuk and Elina Svitolina getting the job done here. Svitolina winning an absolute thriller, 7-5 in the third against Paola Badosa, and Kostyuk somewhat more comfortable straight sets, a tight first one, 7-6, 6-2 against Jessica Buthas Monero. You happy to talk about this tie, Matt?
Absolutely.
You got some takes? Off you go. Let's have some takes.
Well, first take was 9 a.m, I think it was, our time, when the lineups dropped and Paola Badosa is in for Spain. You know, we weren't sure whether she was going to play or not. We knew she was in the squad, but was she healthy enough to play? She hadn't played a competitive match in 78 days, and here she is thrust into a pretty big one, which turned out to be one that she needed to win to keep Spain alive, because obviously Kostyuk had won for Ukraine in the first match. Which was a kind of really dramatic first set where neither of them could quite get the momentum. It kept swinging back and forth. Kostyuk actually in her post-match interview called out her own bad tie-break record in 2025 and said she was worried about having to go to a tie-break because she's been so poor in them this year. But I think she won, only her second tie-break of the year, something like that, to win that first set, and then was able to take a bit more control of the match. And she was impressive, against Buthas Monero, who's had a really good run of form recently. But then I found Svitolina Badosa just compelling, really compelling, because Badosa, despite not playing for so long, came out playing brilliantly. I mean, that first set, she was so good and forced Svitolina to kind of override even this new version of herself, which is trying to be more and more aggressive. She took it to a whole new level and went even more aggressive than she has been playing in the last couple of years, and wrestled control of this one. And I thought Badosa was starting to fade in that third set as Svitolina went up 4-1. But then Badosa's spirit and will and just refusal to give in, and she just wouldn't go away, and she got it all the way back level again. And I thought we were heading for a deciding set tie-break, only for Svitolina to break and win it 7-5 right at the end. But I just thought it was a really compelling match, with Badosa showing a brilliant level of form and Svitolina a fantastic mid-match adjustment, and then both of them real fight and spirit and kind of showing off the absolute best of what they have and what this competition has, and just a really, really big win for Ukraine, taking them to the semi-finals of this competition for the first time ever. And, just a lot of really sort of inspiring quotes from particularly Svitolina afterwards, talking about how, the invasion of Russia has set tennis back in Ukraine, like people have got fewer playing opportunities because of that invasion. And she said that everyone back home is watching. There's a live stream that's free to watch, and people are gathering around to watch it and hopefully be inspired by it, and they feel that, and it comes through when they play. They are everyone there is playing with passion, but those Ukrainian players, I think, in particular, and it's very moving actually to see them perform like that and win like that, and it sets up a fascinating semi-final because Kostyuk's got a winning record over Cocciaretto, and Svitolina's got a winning record over Paolini. So if Italy can get it to the doubles, I think they'd be the favourites, but maybe on form potentially, and also on history, it feels like Ukraine might have the edge in the singles. So it's really nicely poised.
When I saw those performances and I read those quotes from the Ukrainian team that you've just laid out there, Matt, I kind of wanted to go back to Monday and revise my prediction, or at least revise the amount of consideration I gave to Ukraine as potential champions. And I mean, obviously I went down completely the opposite road of ignoring the whole, this competition is traditionally about who can be greater than the sum of their parts, and I went with the sum of the parts. And I picked Team USA, but I kind of wish I'm wondering now if I had my time again, I'd go down the opposite road and pick Ukraine, who are just playing for something so huge, which is always a boost, I think, even more so in a team competition, even more so, I think, at this time of year when everyone's on fumes. Everybody's on fumes. Everyone needs something else to really give them an edge in a match. That there's not much to choose between these players at the top of the game, is there? You need an edge, and I don't know. I just got a sneaky feeling about Ukraine this week. Certainly, Ukraine reaching the final and beating Italy maybe in this semi-final, and obviously those head-to-heads that Matt's laid out, David, from a tennis perspective, they obviously help with that feeling. This is a massive edge that Ukraine have in that respect on Italy, especially with Paolini not in fantastic form, seemingly. Yes, she found a way to haul herself over the line, but that was not an in-form Paolini that we saw against Wang Xinyu.
Well, I've gone for Ukraine against US in the final, so it's on. But actually, what I love about...
you went for the US as well. Like you were my prediction buddy.
But I've got Ukraine in the final. Let's see if that happens.
But losing to the team that is potentially not greater than the sum of its
anyway,
parts.
it hasn't happened yet. Yeah. Now I'm gloating early, which you shouldn't do.
Haven't we?
Yes, I've laid out the rules of predictions versus gloating.
Yes,
and we're not there
first
yet.
Comes avoiding humiliation. Second comes
answering your doubters, and then third is
answering your doubters, and third is gloating.
Up gloating. Without even being provoked. But what I do like is the fact that you've got those singles, you've got that premium on those singles performances for Ukraine because they're going to be the underdogs in the doubles. You've got to get it done in two, most likely, and maybe not. Maybe they will be able to pull it out in the doubles.
It's quite funny, Ukraine. I would love to see them in the doubles because. They've got the Kichinot twins, but they don't play together. I mean, I know they have played together in the past, but they're not typical doubles partners. And do you want Svitolina on court, or Kostyuk? It's going to be.
Or do you put the two singles players together in the last minute and say, "You go and do it"? It's pretty mouth-watering as a prospect. Either way, I love that about the team selection possibilities.
One of the Kichinot sisters is a lot better than the other, certainly in terms of results up to this point, right? There's the one that plays with Elena Ostapenko a lot. Ludmila?
Yeah, I think sort of historically they've had quite similar careers. But yes, I think it's Ludmila who's won a couple of slams, I want to say.
But you're right, there's a reason why they're not playing together regularly on
I think they've won. I looked it up. I think they've won 4 tour level titles together, but not that recently. It's been, they've had different partners recently. So yeah, it'd be really interesting. And I suppose if it goes to the doubles, that means that one of Kostyuk and Svitolina has lost, so then they've got to come back and play doubles, which, can be good, a point to prove and all that kind of thing. We kind of saw that with Pegula today. But equally, it requires a sort of pick-me-up, and maybe then you partner one of the singles players with a doubles. Like, that to me is the most fascinating element of the Billie Jean King Cup, and the Davis Cup, what they do with the doubles and how they work out those combinations. And I think this would be a tie that would really play into that, because we know what the Italian team's going to be, but Ukraine feel like they've got questions that they would need to answer, and it'd be fascinating to see.
Does Paolini have a Svitolina problem?
Well, she has had this year. She lost to her in Australia. She lost to her at Roland Garros. The Roland Garros match was so good, such a high level, that I believe there was a Amelie Mauresmo press conference during the middle of it, which was somewhat frustrating for us.
What a huge surprise.
But you look at that, and it was kind of like, well, these two players are playing really well against each other. It's not like Paolini's struggling to bring her best against Svitolina, but Svitolina has powered through both deciding sets, in particular in their matches, much more one-sided than you would have expected. And it seems that once Svitolina kind of cracks it in that match, she can kind of take over, and she has done, particularly by being ultra aggressive in the way that she was to help turn the match around against Badosa as well. So I think going into it, I do make Svitolina the slight favourite in that one, considering the matches they've had, and considering, do you think Paolini looked a bit tired, or just out of form?
I mean, it's an interesting one, isn't it? I didn't. Her body language is so up all the time that I never really think of it like that in the way that you can see it on other players. But I think maybe the performance itself, that she's trying her absolute damnedest out there, but it is, like Catherine said, it's on fumes stuff. She's getting the last dregs out.
I guess the other question that occurs to me about this upcoming semi-final is whether Cocciaretto will keep her place, given that head-to-head against Kostyuk. I think 3-1. Kostyuk leads the head-to-head. Now, she's never played Bronzetti, so it's not like, I mean, she could have a Bronzetti problem as well, but we just don't. Sorry, Bronzetti could have a Kostyuk problem as well, but we just don't know it yet. But is an unknown better than a bad known? I mean, it would be brutal to drop Cocciaretto after that incredible comeback in the opening tie, but these are the sort of hard-headed decisions that the captains are there to make, David.
I do think Kostyuk is a pretty heavy favourite against either one, but I would be going Cocciaretto, I think, given that she's the player who beat Jessica Pegula, who hits that sort of heavy top player ball. And she had answers to that. And so I think her top level is, if she has a good day, Cocciaretto, I think she could be a match for her. I was amazed, really, that Kostyuk managed to win that first set against Bothas Maniero. She went a break down, and I thought in the first three games, Kostyuk's hitting the living daylights out of the ball, and yet she finds herself behind. I thought she was going to get beaten in that match the way it started, but she's so gritty, and her determination, you wouldn't thought she was tired. I mean, she doesn't look in remotely tired, and actually I think that might be another factor, is I think Svitolina hasn't had that many wins of late. Maybe there's a bit more fuel in the tank, really, on players that have. I know Kostyuk had a run in the summer, but for the most part it was a quiet time from the clay onwards. So I don't know, and it means so much to them. I think that they have got more energy in the tank, and yeah, I think Ukraine are going to win.
Matt, Italy were your picks for the title. Do you feel any differently now, having seen what you've seen? or some of what you've seen, golf permitting.
I do feel a bit differently, actually. I do think Ukraine can get it done in the singles, but I'm not going to underestimate Jasmine Paolini, and I'm gonna stick with it and think that.
Oh, you're going to have it both ways.
Bag.
I see what you've done there. I feel differently, but I'm sticking with my prediction.
That's exactly it.
A classic of the genre. Moving on to the bottom half of the draw, we have a semi-final between the USA and Great Britain. Let's start with the USA's 2-1 win over Kazakhstan, the only of the quarterfinals to go to the doubles. That because we had Emma Navarro saving 2 match points to beat Yulia Putintseva, winning 7-6 in the deciding set. We had Elena Rybakina crushing Jessica Pegula 6-4, 6-1. That took it to the doubles, where we had Jessica Pegula and Taylor Townsend saving a set point in the second to beat Rybakina and Putintseva in straight sets. Now, a lot of this happened in the wee hours of the morning, but we do have a wee hours of the morning correspondent in David Law. Emma Navarro's incredible win over Yulia Putintseva. David, talk us through it.
Yeah, I woke up at about 5 a.m. this morning and just saw the latter stages of this match, and it was so dramatic. I mean, Putintseva was just playing such a wonderful blend of tennis that was a nightmare to face. Just all sorts of angles and spins. I mean, she's a player of variety most of the time, but she took it to another level in this match. And short, long, sort of high, low, every angle you could imagine was coming at Navarro. And again, a little bit like the players from China, she should have won. She should have won that match. Huge credit to Navarro for finding a way out of it and to win. I mean, the second of the match points was a long rally that Putintseva had, and she just kind of run out of gas in that rally. And I think you've got to give huge credit to Navarro for just sticking in there and winning that, because the way the second rubber went, you'd have thought that maybe Pegula might come out with her teammate having won and just be flying in that next one. She didn't get a chance. I mean, the performance that Rybakina put up, but I mean, Navarro's basically got that team a win by being so gritty. I mean, obviously you needed the doubles team to come through, of which Pegula was part and alongside Townsend, but yeah, Navarro has come in late notice, replacing Madison Keys, and she has delivered when, frankly, she was second best for most of it.
Is it a worry for the USA, Matt, that Pegula was so roundly beaten in the singles? Obviously, they'll likely, if they are going to go all the way and win this thing, they'll likely be relying on Jessica Pegula's points in the singles as well as the doubles. Was it a worry, the nature of that defeat to Rybakina, or was that just all about Rybakina and she can kind of do that to anybody on her day?
I do think Pegula, to me, looked a little slow to get going, and she arrived in Shenzhen. I think not with loads of time to prepare for this. I think the turnaround from post US Open to this has been quite quick. For someone who went all the way to the semi-finals in New York and then had a bit of time at home and then on to China. I think that's been a lot, and I think it's not a surprise if she's not at her best. I do think the US is built so that I think they can win it without Pegula winning a singles match. I think if Navarro can keep coming through, I think maybe that might be more of a concern, to be honest, Navarro's form. I think they're obviously going to need a singles win, obviously. But I think if Pegula's not at her best, the US strength should be that their number two is so much stronger. But I think Navarro maybe isn't quite at her best at the moment. And if she were to come up against, for example, a Kostyuk in a potential final that David predicted days ago, then that might be a worry for the US because, obviously Svitolina would be very strong there as well. So, but to go back to this match specifically today, I thought Rybakina was pretty much unplayable. Like, in those conditions, indoors, she should be unplayable. With her serve, with her second serve as well, you see a lot of players have their second serve attacked, and Rybakina was attacking Pegulas. The way Rybakina was hitting that second serve today, you can't even attack that ball. As soon as she gets the first strike in, it's over. Like, she was just hitting the ball so cleanly, so powerfully. I think playing like that against someone who can't really disrupt her all that much, doesn't have loads of different spins and all that kind of thing, I think Rybakina just was unplayable today. But I would have a little bit of concern about their form, perhaps, yes, in the singles. They got it done today in the doubles. But I don't think they're right where they want to be, the US, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and they've obviously had a bit of a rocky week in terms of their time in Shenzhen leading into this quarterfinal. This from reporting in The Athletic by Charlie Eccleshare and James Hansen. A lot of you will have seen this online, where it's kind of blown up a little bit, particularly in China. Taylor Townsend choosing to apologise after posting a series of videos on Instagram in which she mocked a buffet in China. At a dinner with her teammates, Townsend posted a video of a buffet focusing on a bowl of sea cucumbers, which is a delicacy in China. She said, "This is crazy. This angle is effing nuts. This is crazy. I've never seen one of these up close, especially not to eat. Craziest thing I've ever seen, and people are eating this. I'm going to have to talk to HR because what the hell? Turtle and bullfrog is wild." Again, two dishes that are delicacies in China. She then posted another video on her story saying, "I'm honestly just so shocked at what I saw in the dinner buffet. As I go back and I look, these people are literally killing frogs, bullfrogs. Aren't those poisonous? Aren't those the ones that give you warts and boils and stuff? And turtles, and the fact that it's all stewed up with chilies, peppers and onions, and then you got the sea cucumbers just staring there with the noodles. The only thing that we eat, all in all, I'd give this like a solid 2 out of 10 so far, because this is crazy." She was heavily criticised on all social media, but particularly on Chinese social media. She was, I think, the number one trending topic on Weibo, with Chinese equivalent kind of Twitter over there, accused of cultural insensitivity, which I think everybody can agree is pretty glaring there. And she did quite quickly post a video with the following words. She said, "I understand that I'm so privileged as a professional athlete to be able to travel around the world and experience cultural differences. There's no excuse, there's no words, I will be better." So she's obviously owning it completely. No specifics in the apology, I think, is the only sort of glaring omission there. But she has got onto it very quickly. But this caught fire very quickly in China, and actually there was a bit of a delay in announcing the US names on the team sheet for the doubles, and I was starting to wonder if Taylor Townsend maybe wouldn't even play, and she did in the end. And look, they got the win, but there was some hostility towards her from the Chinese fans. There were I saw a picture of somebody holding up a sign about her. It's not been an ideal week for Team USA, put it that way, Matt.
No, absolutely not. I think, yeah, look, people probably don't need me to explain why what she said was wrong and why she needed to apologise. I think, using, I think particularly the phrase "these people" was extremely, condescending at best, and describing people from China as though they're some kind of savages or something for eating what they eat was really quite nasty to hear. And actually, as James pointed out in that piece on The Athletic, there has been a number of incidents of WTA players making, again, culturally insensitive at best comments about China over the last couple of years. There's been incidents with Paola Badosa, there's been an incident with Magdalenette as well, and now this one from Taylor Townsend. I think her apology, she didn't even use the words China or Chinese people in her apology. She seemed to be very much sort of centering her apology on the embarrassment that she'd brought on the US, rather than really apologizing to the Chinese people. And her comments very much played into a stereotype that we know exists. And she was viewing Chinese cultural delicacies through the lens that her views on food are more acceptable than those of Chinese people. So it was a deeply regrettable video and series of videos that she posted. I think particularly it sort of feels sort of heightened because it's Taylor Townsend, and we've just had Taylor Townsend at the US Open be the sort of victim of similar sorts of comments in terms of their insensitivity and sort of racial undertones. I really don't want to do the thing that I've seen a lot of people and commentators doing, sort of somehow justifying what Ostapenko did and said. Like, absolutely not. Let's not do that for a second. These are separate incidents. Yes, I think good that Taylor Townsend deleted those videos and did a video apology rather than just doing a sort of notes app apology. But I do think that that was still pretty short of what would have been a sort of better apology. And yeah, just a really, really horrible episode, to be quite honest.
Yeah, and as much as damage limitation has been done, and she took to the court today and they got the win, like I don't think this is just going to disappear for Taylor Townsend and Team USA. I think it's going to be carried for the rest of the week and probably for the rest of Taylor Townsend's career and future trips to China, to be honest. Their semi-final on Saturday will be against Team GB. That because GB beat Japan handily, doing it in the singles. Sone Cartel beating Ina Shibahara 6-3, 7-6, and Katie Bolter beating Mika Uchijima 6-2, 6-1. One of the best recent victories and performances I've seen from Katie Bolter. Quite frankly, these were both convincing wins and kind of the least remarkable, certainly the least remarkable tie of the tournament so far by some distance, probably, David.
Yeah, least engrossing. The one-sided nature of those scorelines tells you that. But that's credit to Cartel and Bolter for just getting the job done. I think that they are heavy underdogs against the United States. I think that they're down as second seeds because their ranking is number 2 based on, I was reading up 4 years worth of results. But when I look at them listed in the list of teams and the team names there, I mean, to me, they're sort of 6th or 7th in line really for this title. But look, they beat Japan, which I do think in the absence of Naomi Osaka was the weakest team there. And you can only beat the team in front of you, and you can do it in straight sets all the way. They did that. I just think, but Bolter against Pegula is an interesting one because Pegula really was short today, but she was short against Elena Rybakina. And although Bolter is maybe a similar kind of style of player, she's just nowhere near as good as Elena Rybakina. So I think at best that will be close, but I would have thought that Pegula's pretty heavy favourite, and certainly you would see Navarro as a favourite against Kartal. But look, the beauty of these matches, these events specifically, these team events, is players can play above their normal level. Katie Boulter is a different player in a team environment to the player that we see on the tour week in, week out. She does elevate, and we're seeing some of that with Kartal as well. So it's not a given, but they're certainly underdogs.
By the way, I have a stat which I hope will make up for my disgraceful performance on this podcast.
Just low-key unannounced dropping in big stats. It's Matt's stat, but on the pod.
Well, I heard Pegula say that it had been some time since she'd played doubles with Taylor Townsend. So I wondered when that might be. It was the 2011 US Open.
Was Jessica Pegula a player then? Were either of... What?
Isn't that wild? They reached the third round and lost to the eventual finalists Vanya King and Yaroslava Shvedova, who of course is there for Kazakhstan now on the bench. They beat Elena Yankovic in the second round, which definitely dates it. Yeah,
14 years.
My
absolutely
God.
wild.
I think Jessica Pegula only came to my attention properly when she won Washington in 2019?
19.
I mean, I'd heard of her before that, but in terms of...
Well, I think that's
sort
of what makes her career really, really impressive, the way that she was for so long not who we've known her as sort of since that sort of COVID time where she's been an established top 10 player.
But wouldn't she have been
turned herself into that?
A child in 2011?
Yeah, they were both juniors, and I believe, and they both had and they're wild cards. So they wouldn't have been in the draw if you were running tennis.
That is a good stat. That's a mic drop moment. Wow. And look, the fact remains, this is not new in terms of a discussion point for GB in throwing ahead to their semi-final. They're going to need to do it in the singles, aren't they? Barring a miracle, really, they are going to need to win both singles matches, which is quite hard to see.
Which also feels like a bit of a miracle.
Right, yeah. I mean, Ann Kjotevong's talking a big game about them being able to win this title, and I suppose you've got to. In an 8-team draw, you've got to talk a big game, haven't you? But when you actually look at that draw and look at what feels possible, even within this competition where players can elevate, it does feel like a miracle is needed, I think. Is that too strong? David's smirking at me.
I mean, listen, I wouldn't say miracle, but I definitely think that it's a long shot. There's no question. I mean, it's unlikely, but I also think weird stuff can happen in this type of event. I mean, I also wonder at what point, maybe Hailey Baptiste gets a match, and comes in and plays. She was actually put down as the doubles partner for this right until the last second when Taylor Townsend was drafted in, to go along with what you were saying earlier, Catherine. But look, I'd be very surprised if GB won this, but you go in there, they're good players. They've both had wins. If Pegula and Navarro are a bit knackered at the moment, I think Kartal and Boulter aren't. They are pumped. They are ready to go and just to give this everything. So,
I'm a big believer in the power of pumped.
Well, I am. I think in these events you can do amazing things. Really, if you happen to be upbeat and feeling good.
David got the call up. What you could do with your power of pumped.
Well, on the sidelines,
Name on the
maybe,
trophy.
not with the racket in my hand. I could be Anne's right-hand man and just sort of, imagine she seems pretty good at getting people pumped. So,
Yeah. In her own way, I think she's a good motivator, and Kyothafong. But sorry, Matt, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, I'm not sure off the top of my head what the head-to-head is overall, but I do know that Bolter has beaten Pegula in a team event. She played brilliantly, didn't she, to beat her at the United Cup a couple of years ago. And I do think
that was
Bolter,
peak Bolter.
It was. It absolutely was.
Yes.
But I think if it's not peak Pegula, it maybe gives her a bit of a shot. I also think she's more comfortable in indoor conditions. You know, Bolter has probably played her best tennis, I'd say maybe on grass, but in indoor, you know, Brits are quite comfortable playing indoors normally, and Bolter with those, you know, with her game style, she is. I don't think Pegula's played all that much indoors. You know, not much of the WTA tour that Pegula would traditionally play is indoors. And, you know, I think there might be something in that in terms of conditions for Bolter. And I do think Navarro is vulnerable. You know, I don't think she's playing anywhere near her best tennis, anywhere near really what her ranking is, I would say. I still think she was playing a lot better last season. I'm just not quite sure Cartel will quite have the firepower to take advantage of that. So I do, you know, they're strong favourites, the US, but I'm just trying to find little rays of hope for Britain that I imagine Anki Othavong is, you know, latching onto and saying, look, Navarro's not been at her best, Pegula's vulnerable, and if she can get them fired up, and I think they've got more chance in the Billie Jean King Cup than they would have on tour, I suppose, of trying to eke out these wins.
And look, it's back-to-back Billie Jean King Cup semi-finals for GB, isn't it? Like, they are... This is already a great performance in this competition for them. Don't want to write them off when they're... I feel like I've already written them off, but there we go. Okay, so everybody's got USA coming through to the final. Matt, you've got Italy meeting them there. David and I have Ukraine taking on the USA in the final. Is that where we are?
That's
Correct.
where we are.
Okay, well, let's meet again on Saturday and do a stock take of where we are and exactly what the power of pumped is. Matt, you can slather on some aloe vera in the meantime. Just on those two triangles at the top of your head, though.
Trust me.
Just on a very specific area. You've been aloe vera-ing.
I'm also being unprofessional on Saturday because I'm hoping the tennis wraps up quickly so I can get off to Fulham in the evening.
Yeah, he's had no takes on the first bit of the podcast today, and have no takes on the last bit of the podcast on Saturday because he'll have jogged off to Fulham.
I've already said to Vicky, no shout-outs on Saturday.
It's not unprofessional, it's just sensible.
Right, okay, well, we've got to make them extra good today then. No pressure. First of all, of course, let's say hello to our mascots, Phoebe Maisie, and Roger. Hello to you. Hello to our top folks and executive producers, Greg, Chris, and Jeff. Matt, seeing as you're good enough to have stayed, let's have some shout-outs.
Well, and let's first of all shout out Nick Imerson, who we mentioned in the shout-out section last time. The
real shout-out MVP.
Likely to come in for us with some tennis Jillians, and he, of course, has, from the corner of the court in Shenzhen, where we've been seeing him on the screen.
If you're wondering who Nick Imerson is, if you've been watching the Billie Jean King Cup this week, you've probably seen him.
Definitely.
He's getting as much airtime as Billie Jean King.
And he's come up with some very niche Jillians for us. Gillian Brooke, wife of Phil Brooke, still successful on the ITF Masters circuit and competing on the ITF World Championships. In fact, she played with John Lloyd this year.
Incredible.
Just sensational.
Phil Brooke being the former Wimbledon CEO.
Yeah.
Yeah. Big time.
Shout out Nick.
Shout out Nick, always.
Now on to today's shout-outs, which actually are much easier tennis names. We won't have trouble with these. But still send us an email, Nick. We like hearing from you. We've got Andy Brown from London,
Hello, Andy. It's almost
Right,
too
Andy.
easy, Andy, isn't it?
Like Andy Lapthorne, the British quad wheelchair player.
Matt played golf with Andy Lapthorne.
He was a no-show.
Oh,
No, he wasn't.
He was.
Gosh, his name was on the team sheet and everything. Didn't want to get sunburnt.
Clearly.
Wow. Okay, well, Andy Lapthorne, that Matt didn't... Well, none of us played golf with Andy Lapthorne this week. Okay, let's go. Andy Murray, who also no-show at the golf.
Well, he won it last year.
No point. in
one
coming
and
back.
out. He didn't want to lose his title to Matt with a sunburned head, so he just said, I'll leave it.
Hopefully this is really going to boost our YouTube figures. People will be going to YouTube to see my sunburn.
What do we know about Andy Brown?
Well, Catherine, a long-suffering Reading FC fan.
Oh,
His words.
Andy. Oh, it's not... Oh, God, Andy.
It's not going that well this season, is it yet?
No.
I said
No,
yet.
No.
Still time.
Yeah.
It's all right,
I'm
Catherine.
afraid
Me and Aki Offalong will come on
I'm
and
afraid
get them
I
all
don't
pumped.
have any. Don't have any. Andy would be able to see through any optimism that I tried to bring to the party here. Andy knows. Andy knows what's up, and I'm sorry, Andy, but you know you've got solidarity here.
Thanks for being a friend.
We've also got Katie Brodie.
Double tennis name. Hello, Katie.
Yes, the Brodie is a different spelling. But
Okay. No
yes.
A.
No, it's Brodie.
I-E. Very good.
And Katie is from Edinburgh.
I was going to say, I think that's a Scottish name, isn't it? Brodie spelt that way. So that all checks out. Katie, like Katie
And-
Swan.
And
Yes.
like Katie Bolter. And I should also add that when I was putting the Nick Imerson-inspired Jillians into our shout-out form, which I've now got for if ever we struggle, there was actually a Kate segment in there as well. So, you know, it's...
Because we always struggle with Kate's, don't we? And Katie's, we're okay.
Yeah, we've
but
got Swan, we've got
Kate's
Bolter,
are a
we've
bit
got
of a
volley
problem.
nets.
McNally.
Nick Imerson had come up with... I mean, I'm really struggling with who these people are, but Kate Gomper and Kate Brasher.
But David, this is a Katie.
Okay.
We've got Katie's
Well, I
coming out
just
of her
thought-
ears.
There's also Katie with a C, Katie McNally.
I just said Katie McNally.
Oh, did you? Well, it's in the form. I'm just reading out the form because I'm really proud of it. I'll keep it open in case we need it for the third one.
Little nice detail from our Katie, as I tried desperately to get us back on track here, is that she once dragged her family up a hill to visit the Alice Marble tennis courts in San Francisco.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that great?
Very good cause.
San Francisco's current scene of many Labour Cup photo opportunities. How do we feel about the low-hanging fruit of Carlos Alcaraz being taken to Alcatraz?
Is that what they're doing?
Inevitable.
Yeah.
Oh.
Head to our YouTube to see the face that David just made.
Oh, don't worry, everyone's on YouTube.
You're not into that, David? You wouldn't have been doing that in your PR days. Everybody else went on a day out on a tram, and they sent Alcaraz. Oh God, they sent Alcaraz to a prison.
I mean, it all adds up now that he didn't appear to be in the official photo. So maybe that's why.
He was at a prison.
Have you seen that?
I mean, it is
team
probably
mate-
what I would have done 20 years ago.
I've been to Alcatraz. I've done that boat ride that he did. Yeah, it's a good day out.
Now I know what it's like to be on the other end of my PR ideas.
Anyway, Katie, we've derailed you. I'm sorry.
Have you seen that Alcaraz's team members have also had to do stuff to their hair. So his physio is now blonde, and Alvaro
Alcaraz
has
isn't
shaved
blonde.
his head.
Alcaraz is now like a weird shade of grey. He's letting it grow out, isn't he? And it's I don't know. There are some strange days ahead for Alcaraz's hair. I foresee.
It's only Labour Cup. Doesn't matter.
At least he's not sunburnt. Thank you, Katie.
And finally, we have Judy Tran from Sydney, Australia.
Hello, Judy. Judy's a returning shout out, isn't she? Andy and Judy, all in one batch. Andy, Judy and Katie. We've got British tennis royalty in our shout outs today.
And this is a shout out, is a gift from Judy's husband, Jeff.
Oh,
How wonderful.
that is lovely.
Good work, Jeff.
Like our executive producer, Jeff. And Judy, like Judy Dalton. And, of course, Judy Murray.
Very good.
Judy, Andy, Katie, and Jeff, thank you ever so much for your support of the tennis podcast. If you want to follow the Billie Jean King Cup, then head to their website and their socials. It's available on Tennis Channel in the UK, which you can watch via Prime Video. Tennis Channel in the US as well. If you're wondering where you can watch wherever you are in the world, then there is a list of broadcasters on the Billie Jean King Cup website, and you can also watch the GB USA semi-final on the BBC here in the UK. We'll be back with our next podcast on Saturday to talk about those semi-finals, look ahead to the final, and then we'll be back on Sunday at 8 p.m. live on YouTube to talk about the final and reflect on the week and look ahead to next week. Generally do all the podcast things. And Matt, I don't think you've made any plans for post podcast on Sunday, so we'll get your full attention, will we?
Absolutely. I'll just be wearing a hat.
Worth tuning in for, folks. We'll speak to you Saturday. We'll see you Sunday. Thanks for listening.